Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. So we got the old back porch setting for the day. So we're basically, I'm gonna go over this TruGlo Centra first focal plane scope, you know, that I did the unboxing video on, kind of the unboxing, my initial thoughts on it. And we're just gonna add a little more information to that video. I went ahead, got it mounted up. This is on the Steyr Pro Hunter 270 Winchester. And so for the guys that are looking for more 270 Winchester content, you're about to get flooded with some, because I've got several bullet and powder combinations. Not necessarily different powder combinations, but I've got a lot of bullet combinations that I need to test with Accurate Mag Pro. If you'll recall, I found, this has been probably several months back. Well, I'll say several, probably back before Christmas. I was in Mr. Big Guns over in Huntsville, and you know, I mean, it was basically, components were hard to find, right? Like powder was very difficult to find. Primers were non-existent, all that. And Matt had an 8-pound jug of Accurate Mag Pro sitting on the shelf for 167 bucks. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe the price he had on it. So I went ahead and bought it. I was like, I know I'll use this powder for something. I knew I could use it in 270 Winchester. Now 8 pounds is quite a bit, but I've got a lot of bullets I want to test in this rifle, and so we will test them with that powder initially, just because I have so much of it. But went ahead, mounted it up. Just some initial kind of pros and cons. I just want to go over a couple of things. The glass clarity is good enough. Okay, it's on par, in my opinion. Now, this is just my opinion and my eyes, and the way I'm perceiving it. It is on par with the Athlon first focal plane and the Primary Arms first focal plane, the 4-14. I'm talking those three, this optic, and then those other two, the 4-14 by 44 offerings that are from Primary Arms and then Athlon Optics. They seem to be on par in terms of glass, in my opinion. Now, where this one really sucks is the Parallax Knob. It's the location of it. I mean, you got your little nitrogen purge thingamajig, whatever that is, that sticks out the bottom of the scope. Well, the problem is, if you're just making your parallax, it's kind of in the way. You know, I don't know why this knob is so large, and if they couldn't have just made that smaller, made it maybe protrude out a little bit further. I mean, and it doesn't even have to be much. I mean, if it was just slightly further out, man, it would be so much better in terms of placement. And then too, with this knob, it really, from about, I mean, you guys aren't going to be able to see any of this because it's whatever, but you're not going to really be able to see the numbers on here. But from about 30 up to about 200, it's relatively smooth. I mean, it's still, but it's relatively smooth. But man, you get above 200, you know, 200, and then it goes 300, 500, and infinity, and then down below you got 20 down to 10. From 20 to 10, up to about 30, it gets a lot harder, and then above 200, it gets a lot harder to turn. So just that's kind of annoying. The Magnification Adjustment, pretty smooth, actually. I think on the initial video I might have mentioned it felt stiff, but it's actually not bad. And the integrated throw lever, I mean, that's a nice touch. That's, you know, that's nice that it's even included. The turrets, they remind me in terms of just the feel and the overall look and everything. They do remind me very much of the Primary Arms 4-14 and just the overall kind of look of the optic, I guess, reminds me of that. Now, in terms of the reticle, everything else, your diopter and all that's fine, no big deal there. But what's really, I guess, the reticle doesn't set this scope apart, but in my opinion, it is what makes this scope even a viable option, or an option that you might even want to look into, is the reticle. And I'm not going to be able to film this really well, and so y'all are going to probably, it's not going to come through as clean and clear as it does, in real life, but whatever. But I mean, that's your mill dot, and you can't see the hash marks. Well, you could probably pick them up a little bit. You have hash marks in between each dot, and it's actually numbered down to 10 mils at the bottom there. And see, what I like about this reticle is that it gives you a kind of a fine aiming point on the crosshairs. The reticle is it's thin, and you've got those thick bars on the outside. Now that's all the way on 14. So a lot of times with first focal plane scopes, one of the problems is the reticle is so fine that at your lowest magnification level, it's almost not necessarily unusable, but it's not that great either. Well, what I like about this guy is those bars, basically, on the outer portion of the reticle, they're so thick, they're 1 mil in thickness. And what I like about that is it really draws your eye to the center, right, of the reticle. So, it's very usable in my opinion, even on 4 power. Now again, I know you guys can't see this. If I were just looking through it with my eye, it'd be perfectly fine. But coming through on video, it's not gonna come through. And that, I have no idea how far away that gazebo is. I think I ranged it at one time, but it's a good distance out there. But that's the part, I guess, the really nice piece of this optic. The parallax adjustment kind of sucks, the location of it, and just in general, the overall feel. The turrets are, yes, I like the fact that you have to pull up before you can make the adjustment, and then they're locked in place. Those are nice features, but the turrets are, they're pretty terrible in terms they leave a lot to be desired. And they don't line up. It's not too bad. I went ahead and reset the 0. I bore sided and just kind of reset everything back to 0, and it lined up a little bit better. But even after you see that play, that's after you lock it down. There's still that little bit of play, which, I mean, guess doesn't really matter. It doesn't play. There isn't enough slop to where you're like, oh, is that, 1/10 of a mil over? Where am I at? I mean, you can tell you're on 0. Same thing for the windage. It's just, they'll get the job done. Now, I like this reticle better than the Athlon Optics reticle that was in their 4-14, at least the version that I had. I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me, but it was just such a thick reticle, and I ended up, I didn't like that. I didn't like how thick the reticle was, so I ended up getting rid of that one. Now, if you are big into just holding over and not dialing, holding over for wind and doing all that, you're better off going with the primary arms with the R-Grid 2B reticle, I think is what it's called. That reticle is pretty sweet. Really nice design. Now, it depends on where you sit in terms of that camp, because the reticle is very busy. There's a lot that's going on there. So if you're one of these people that like more of a clean reticle that's not as cluttered, doesn't have as much going on with it, then this is going to be something that you'll really like. I feel like you will. This reminds me more of the SWFA reticle that they have. Not necessarily similar in terms of the diamond shape that they use and that type of stuff in their reticle, but just overall the thin nature of the reticle itself and how fine of an aiming point you have, it reminds me of that. And then in their little book here, you know, they kind of go over, they give you all the rundown there. They tell you about mounting options. It depends on if you're shooting beyond 800 yards. You know, they recommend a 20 MOA base. Let's see. Talk about zeroing the turrets, which is really simple. You just take that Allen key that's included. You unscrew that, pop that turret off, turn it to 0, set it back on, tighten it. I'm done. So easy. Firing solutions, it kind of gives you an example. You know, 308 with 168 grain Hornady A Max, you know, drops basically 2 mils out at 375. So it just basically gives you kind of what you could do, you know, if it's zeroed at 100 meters and you're wanting to shoot 375. So they and that's the thing too, they'll drops at 375, you know, 375 yards, and then they talk about your rifle being zeroed at 100 meters. So I mean, you know, whatever. There's some back and forth there between units, but it just talks about you could hold over, you know, use the reticle to hold, or you can dial. Either way, not exactly sure how precise the tracking is on this unit. It gives you, you know, first focal plane, kind of tells you what it is using mil radians. The mil dot, there's an actual illustration of the reticle so you guys can see. And so the crosshair thickness is 0.088 mils. So it really is a much finer reticle in terms of thickness than some of the other ones I've used, and I really like that. That's pretty nice. But I mean, overall the reticle is very clean. I don't see any issues. And then it goes into range estimation. If you want to do that, that's without unit conversion, and then that is inches and yards. It mentions it's in the StreetLock Pro app. The reticle is, so you can go download that app and do all that. Your diopter, parallax setting, which, oh man, that's such a terrible. That parallax knob, man, that's just not a great. I don't know. They could have probably put a little more forethought into that one. But then their limited lifetime warranty, and then on the back here you've got your dope card. They include. I mean, that's pretty cool. You know, I have a little dope card, so if you want to fill that out, got you a few different bullets there, and then you can fill out the information, maybe tape it to your stock or whatever. You know, laminate it, do something like that. So that's pretty neat. But you know, I just wanted to give you guys a look at the reticle itself. You know, how it's sitting on the rifle. I can't wait to get out to the range and check this guy out, put it through its paces. Now, you know, Midway they were selling them for $99.99, you know, with free shipping, which is why I bought it. But I believe it showed their original price was like maybe $229, which sounds it sounds more kind of along the lines of what I would expect this scope to cost. I feel like that's obviously what TruGlo is trying to do. They're trying to come into that 4 to 14 power first focal plane scope market, where a lot of these manufacturers are coming in with these, you know, mid $200 optics, basically anywhere from, you know, $230 up to $300, depending on which one you go with, which reticle design you go with. Primary Arms, Athlon Optics, those guys, they have those first focal plane scopes in that price point. Well, I feel like that's exactly what TruGlo is trying to do. And just the feel of the optic and the look of the optic and the glass clarity, I would imagine this is just made basically on this, you know, in the same factory as Primary Arms, Athlon, those guys, just with, you know, certain specifications that meets TruGlo's requirements. That's basically it. So But that's it. That's all. This is just a follow-up video. Wanted to go ahead and get this posted after I did that initial unboxing. That way you guys can actually see the reticle, see what I'm talking about. I have no complaints. I mean, other than the Parallax deal, I mean, the turrets, I feel like, whatever, but they'll get the job done. I mean, we'll just see how she holds up. So we'll catch y'all next time, and y'all have a good one.